Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over what I'm going to call the hidden disadvantages of console Fortnite. When it comes to playing Fortnite on PS4 or Xbox or even Nintendo Switch, everybody knows that you're going to be fighting an uphill battle against players on PC. And the main reason why that's the case is due to FPS. PC players who have a solid gaming computer will get 3 to 4 times the max FPS of a console, and even lower end PCs should still be at least double. Higher FPS means a much smoother playing experience as a whole, and that leads to players having a much easier time with pretty much everything. Aiming, building, editing, you name it, higher FPS helps. But what a lot of people don't realize is that FPS isn't the only disadvantage that console players face. I actually saw a Twitch clip a few weeks ago where some semi-pro player basically capped his FPS near 60, played a game, did fairly decent I guess, and then he basically said something like, oh, console players complain so much, but there's proof right there that 60 FPS isn't even that bad. I actually played a few games on console a couple of days ago with my friends, and I'll be honest, it really didn't go that well. So I can basically give you a kind of first-hand testimony of the biggest differences I noticed between controller on PC and controller on console. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first disadvantage of console that I don't think gets talked about enough is the amount of input lag it has compared to controller on PC. And I think a big reason for that is the fact that if you've only played on console like most people have, it's not like you really have anything to compare to. Well, let me just tell you, when you get used to controller on PC and then you play on console, it's really a night and day difference that you notice immediately. I would compare it to like having a ridiculously high ping. You can basically feel this obvious delay between you pressing buttons and the action actually registering and occurring in the game. And man, does that make it difficult to do even simple tasks. My aim for like the first 3 to 4 games I played on console was just absolutely dreadful. I couldn't hit any pump shots, I would hit maybe 1 out of every 5 to 10 AR shots. The only thing that felt even semi-normal was when I got close enough to barrel stuff someone with an SMG. And that wasn't all, my editing and building took a pretty major hit as well. Even simple edits like a top right corner wall edit that I could usually do with my eyes closed turned into something that I would frequently mess up 2 to 3 times before finally getting it. Same deal with building, simple ramp rushes and high ground retakes that I could probably do like 50 times in a row without messing up on PC, they were now somewhat of a struggle to do on console. And I actually remember like a year ago when I went back to console for Winter Royale, I couldn't even waterfall correctly for like the first hour I played. I specifically recall playing Zone Wars with my friends and dying like 3 times because I would be on height, I'd try waterfalling down to catch myself, and the input lag would cause me to time my piece placement incorrectly and I'd fall to my death. And it's funny because when I talk about the difference between sensitivity for controller on PC versus controller on console, I always say that the higher FPS is the reason that sensitivity feels so different between those two platforms. But now that I really think about it and I experienced it firsthand, I'm starting to believe that it might be the input lag that's the main cause, and then the FPS is just more of a secondary one. Now obviously, as time goes on and you start to play more, you do start to adjust to it and make less simple mistakes, but that amount of input lag is without a doubt one of the biggest disadvantages of console that I almost never see people mention. I don't really know what causes it because I use the same exact controller as I do on PC, but maybe that's something that can hopefully be fixed with the next generation of consoles. The next disadvantage of playing on console is the graphics. And when I say that, I kinda mean 2 different things at the same time. The first one is something I've mentioned many times before, the fact that console players are forced to play on preset graphics with no customization options. It's actually kind of funny because a few days ago a new setting was added to the game called high-res textures, and that gave console players some hope that maybe Epic was finally giving them the ability to customize their graphics because it allowed you to turn high-resolution textures off. But this was quickly put to rest by this string of tweets by Fortnite's Twitter account. First, they said, with the release of v14.10, you may have noticed a new high-res textures option in the settings. This option has no effect except on PlayStation 4 and Android devices. We apologize for the confusion. And then they took it a step further by tweeting, we've disabled this option, meant for release only on Android, but not at this time, yada yada yada. It will return to Android in a future patch. This option will also be disabled on all other platforms. So it's either already been removed from console or it will be in the very near future. And that obviously means that console players will still have to deal with things like shadows, textures sometimes not even rendering at the beginning of games, and the negative FPS impact that high-res graphics likely have. But the main issue that I experienced that I really haven't heard anybody else talk about is that everything on console just seems a lot blurrier. I'm not a huge tech guy myself, so I'm not sure if there's some kind of logical explanation as to why that's the case, but it just seems so much harder to see people when I played on console. And anytime I moved my crosshair really fast, I noticed that my whole screen became a lot more blurry. At first I thought maybe I just forgot to turn motion blur off, but I checked and it had been turned off the entire time. I know there is definitely a slight amount of blurring on PC as well, but at least to me it's barely even noticeable. But on console, that really wasn't the case at all. I noticed it almost immediately. The next disadvantage of console that may have been the most frustrating of them all were the random little stutters and hitches I would get on pretty much an every game basis. Now PC Fortnite definitely isn't perfect in this department either, don't get me wrong, but it's just so much worse as a whole on console. It never really single-handedly gets you killed, but all it takes is the slightest pause in the middle of a fight to make you mess up a shot or edit that puts you in a really bad spot. And it's funny because I play with a lot of people who are still on console, and they complain about this fairly frequently, but I always joke that it was only because they still have the 2013 original model of the Xbox One. Turns out that definitely isn't the case at all because I have the newer Xbox One S model that was released a few years later, and I can assure you that it was still a major problem. Now, based on what I've read in the past, these little stutters and hitches kinda come and go with certain updates. Sometimes there'll be good periods where they don't happen at all really for like 1 to 2 months, then a random update will come out, it'll mess something up, and that'll cause tons of problems for a couple of weeks or so until another update comes out and fixes it. So I know a lot of PC players specifically have been having big problems with FPS drops since the most recent update, so hopefully I just caught console Fortnite at a bad time and these stutters and hitches will be fixed relatively soon. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down the comment section below. If you play on console, what are your thoughts on the issues that I talked about in this video? Do you think they're maybe overrated? Are they a bigger deal than I'm making them out to be? Are there some that are more of a problem than others? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.